and welcome. My name is Michelle and I'm your emotional resilience coach, and it is absolutely fantastic to have you here with me today. Today what I'd like to do is just clarify and chat a little bit more about what I really love to do. What is my purpose? What is my passion? What is it that I'm hoping to achieve? And I speak in very broad terms. I speak about taking your power back. If you know me over on Instagram, I often speak about stand in your power, take your power back, no longer being a victim in your own life. And what I like to do is, if you are a fawn or a codependent, you have most likely grown up in a very dysfunctional, traumatized home where you have learned these ways and these patterns of being to survive, and they have served you well. But eventually we all get to a point in our lives where we just get sick and tired of being sick and tired. We realize that our patterns are actually not serving us. We realize that there is far more out there for us, but we don't know what that looks like, and it's nobody's fault. It just hasn't crossed our paths yet, or perhaps we haven't seen it or understood it for what it is. And it's really this whole process of not being a victim in your life. If this resonates with you, if this feels like something you want to learn more about, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. My passion is to explain to you and really help you see how you don't have to be a victim in your own life anymore. Part of this process can get very blurry and can get very messy, because what we're looking for is a middle ground. We're looking for a place of equanimity, a place of peace, a place where we are happy and understand that everything that we're going through, what we're doing, what's happening is for us, that the world is not working against us, the world is working for us. And I know this can sound way out there, and this can sound terrifying, and this can sound scary, because we've been through so much pain and terror, and we can think, how is this for me? I just feel pain. How is this good for me? So there are two aspects that I want us to just bear in mind when trying to take our power back. We're no longer being a victim in our story. And that is to just be aware of the two main places we tend to flip between. One is we either go into a place of blame. I've spoken about this before, where we blame external circumstances for the way that we feel. So if somebody's unkind, somebody's mean-spirited, somebody shows up and they're not being their best selves, we might be moody, we might retaliate, we might go home and vent, we might be in a state of discomfort somehow, and we will say, but it's because of them. If they hadn't done this, if they hadn't shown up like this, then I wouldn't. All right, do you see how we're giving our power over? We're giving our power away. We're saying the way you show up in the world, the way you respond and be is going to determine the way I am. And I've seen these memes, and they make me cringe, because that again is just keeps giving our power over and our power away, and that's not what we want to do. We don't want to be at the effect of how other people are going to show up. All right, that's not taking our power back. It's not a case of tit for tat. Well, if you're going to show up mean-spirited, then I'm going to be mean-spirited, and you deserve it, because that's how. Oh, it's ugly, it's messy, and it doesn't work. All right, it just keeps us spiraling in this discomfort. The other place that we tend to then flip to, if we're not blaming, is we go inwards and we have shame. So we have this terrible self-criticism that we just judge and critique every part of our personality. You might lie in bed and think, oh, if I'd only said this, if I'd done this, if I'd done it this way, if I'd shown up like this, if only I didn't feel this, right? And so we judge and we criticize, and we're just mean and ugly to ourselves. Both extremes keep us stuck in our victimhood. All right, we are not being empowered. We're not standing in our power. We're not enjoying life and knowing and realizing that it is in our creation. We can have joyful, magical, wonderful lives. And so we've just got to be really careful and check in with ourselves that we're not going to one of the two extreme places. And I know it's really difficult as a fawn. What we tend to do is we think, well, what else is there, right? It's this or it's that. And there is this middle ground. And what this middle ground looks like is accepting responsibility and being accountable for our own feelings and the way we show up, and realizing that the feelings we have, the way we show up, is because of our thoughts. It's the way we think about things. I've done videos before about checking our thoughts. How dysfunctional are our thoughts? Where are we with them? All right. Are we in extremes? Do we go black and white? Do we get really personal? Do we make mean things about ourselves? What are we doing with our thoughts? Are we being healthy in our thinking? Do our thinking patterns serve us, or do they work against us? So that is the first thing to kind of check in with ourselves. And then the second thing where it gets really tricky is to not judge ourselves and say, you know what? Yeah, I reacted badly. Could I do better? Absolutely. Am I going to do better next time? Hopefully. All right. How other people show up has got nothing to do with me. How I respond has everything to do with me. However people read me has nothing to do with me. How I am and be, that is all in my power. And that is where we get to take our power back. The middle is complete awareness. It's awareness of the fact that we are responsible for ourselves. It is also complete acceptance that we're human and messy and complicated, and we're going to have negative emotions because we're supposed to. We're not always going to be thrilled with the way people show up. Sometimes people are disrespectful, and we need to work on our boundaries so that their disrespect doesn't encroach on our lives and our way of being. All right? It's all about finding that balance all the time. Ask yourself the question, am I taking responsibility that what I'm feeling right now, what I'm going through, that these emotions, these are mine to own? And on top of that, am I being loving and accepting and gentle with myself? I think at times what we do is we fall into the trap where we are raging against the world. We are fighting against the world with everything we have because it's not fair, or it's not going our way, or it isn't what it should be. And the statement I absolutely hate, again, over on Instagram, I did a post about it once where it resonated with a lot of people, where I said, I hate the phrase, it is what it is. And I actually still don't like the phrase because I don't think it's acceptance. I think there is still behind that, for me at least, a tone of judgment, a tone of giving up, a tone of, well, whatever. Where acceptance really more has the sense of peace, this feeling of nothing has gone wrong. Everything is going exactly the way it's supposed to. I was chatting to my daughter recently, and we were talking about the statement, nevertheless. I have a great coach / mentor who opened my eyes to the statement, nevertheless. And if we break down the words, never, the, less, we can look at it as we're never experiencing less. All right, we are experiencing exactly what we're supposed to for our journey, for our growth, for our betterment. We are not experiencing less. That's not what it's about. All right, so just check in with yourself to kind of bring yourself back to the middle, bring yourself back to that place of equanimity, that place of peace and all is well. And even though there is chaos going on around me, I don't necessarily have to engage with that chaos, but if I do, that's okay too, because I'm a human being, and sometimes negative emotions are necessary. As I've spoken before, they are our messengers. That's all they are. They're here to tell us something about ourselves, to just kind of bring our awareness to something where we need to grow and stretch. And sometimes a negative emotion is appropriate. When mourning a loss, it's appropriate to have a negative emotion. When grieving, it's appropriate to have a negative emotion. When angry, perhaps somebody has disrespected you somehow, it's appropriate to have a negative emotion. But so far as what changes do you need to make Are there boundaries you need to set up? Is there something you need to work on letting go? Do you need to sit with your emotions and just feel the pain and the grief? What is the process that you need to go to work through so that you can get through to the other side? There's no quick stop over, there's no jump. It is a process to kind of push through and wade through those emotions. Those are my thoughts today. Not being a victim is taking our power back. I read a quote recently, which I'll end with and I'll leave with you, and it's something that I like to think about, and it goes along the lines of, it is easier to hold other people responsible for your pain than to take responsibility for ending your own victimhood. That's what we're doing here. We are taking responsibility for our pain and we're ending this victimhood. People do the best they know how with what they have, and unfortunately, often it isn't very much. But that's what it is to be human and messy and complicated, and that's what we have to work with. We ourselves are complicated, messy, and deeply flawed. We're working with ourselves too. It goes on. Most of us want a dictator, albeit a benevolent one, so we can pass the buck and say it's because of them. But we can't spend our lives hanging out under someone else's umbrella and then complain that we're getting wet. So let's pull up our own umbrella. Let's stand under that. Let's no longer be the victims in our own story. We're not minimizing our story. We're not taking away the pain. We're not saying that what we went through wasn't horrific, didn't break our hearts, maybe perhaps, didn't end us. For some of us, it's really, really extreme, some of the things that we've gone through, some of the things that we felt. It's not for one moment dishonoring any of that. We're going to take moments to honor that and to say, wow, I went through a lot, but I'm standing here today and I am creating the life that I want. More empowered, more happy, and full of joy. Lean into joy. Live a life of joy. It is there for your taking. Have a most fantastic day.